for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming. I'd like to do a roll call. Mr. Alt, Mr. Beistel, Dr. Fike. Here. Mrs. Kaufman. Here. Mrs. Love. Here. Mr. Miller.
Here.
Mr. Polakowski.
Here.
Mrs. Rhodes. Mr. Vance. I'd like to turn the meeting over now to Mr. Salem, who will get us started.
The agenda for the next meeting is not written down, but this is the way we had planned for it to play out. In order to get everybody out of here in time for tonight's game where our volleyball team takes on the Steelers, we thought we'd give a half hour toward administrative reports, a half hour towards public comment, and a half hour towards board comment. Considering that our board policy states that public comments limited to 5 minutes, we're going to still adhere to that, but in order to give everyone around the table the opportunity to have their say about the budget, we're going to hold initial public comments to 5 minutes, and then, initial comment from the board members to 5 minutes, and then any extra time we could just all go ahead around the table and make more comments. So having said that, I just have a few things to say after our last meeting. It's still a work in progress. We're still working on the budget. We're still working to get down the deficit below $900,000. We still have basically 2 months to do that. We're planning to bring a preliminary budget to the board on the end of May. We plan to move the voting meeting to the end of May, and then we'll have the budget on display for 30 days, and then we'll adopt the budget at the end of June. So it gives us 2 months now to work to bring this budget down to a more manageable figure. Mind you that the revenues figures that you received in the summaries reflect a tax increase. They reflect the tax 1.8 mil tax increase, which is the top of the Act 1 threshold. That tax increase would raise taxes in Westmoreland County homes $21.74, and in Fayette County homes $18.26. Looking over the end of March figures, looking towards the end of the school year, we're not going to finish with a huge fund balance this year, so we won't have a great addition to the fund balance as we have in the past. I will say that Mr. Meeswal and I went to a maintenance workshop. We took away a lot of good ideas from that, ideas perhaps we could use to reduce the deficit further. And so I just want to say that the administrators and I are working diligently to every day trying to find another way to save a couple of $1,000s here, a couple of $1,000s there. It's not easy, but it can be done, and we're working towards that. This time I'm going to pass along to Dr. Molnar. He has some information, financial information that he wants to pass along to the board.
Yeah, on February 9th, Dr. Fike had distributed a questionnaire, and the same questionnaire was distributed at the budget forum that we had on March 26th. According to the information on the questionnaire, the The questions are from members of the public, taxpayers, and the electorate of the Southmoreland School District. So I've worked for about the last 2 or 3 days to try to come up with the correct answers to these questions, and that's what I will provide now. The first question was, please provide the date and time of all Finance Committee meetings and how they will be publicly advertised. The dates were March 26, 2012 at 7 o'clock and April 26, 2012 at 6 o'clock p.m. Both meetings were publicly advertised in the newspaper of general circulation, and a notice was also posted on the administration building. The second question is, what is the exact amount in the fund balance? In August 2011, William Salem reported a $4,522,000 fund balance, and in October 2011, Bill Porter reported a $7,956,889 fund balance. If not listed, do we know our fund balance? The response is this. According to Mr. Salem's presentation to the Board of Education on March 26, 2012, Southmoreland's fund balance as of June 30, 2011 was approximately $8 million. June 30, 2011 marks the end of the 2010-2011 fiscal year. Mr. Salem also outlined the following: $1,400,000 committed for early retirement incentives, $900,000 committed to improvements to Scotland Yard, $900,000 committed to the maintenance building. The drainage pipe replacement estimate of $300,000. I'm pleased to report to you that we received and opened the bids today, and that project came in at about $159,000. So we were pretty excited about that. Possible property tax reassessment refunds, $460,000, and again, those are possible. They may or may not occur. And the proposed upgrades to the HVAC system at the primary center, $740,000, should the board decide to invest in that project. So the total earmarked expenditures from that sum that's in the fund balance is $4,700,000. Of an $8 million fund balance, when you subtract the $4,700,000 from that, the net fund balance then is $3,300,000. The next question dealt with revenue sources.
Now, on...
I'm going to hand this out so you'll have a copy of it.
Well, but I just wanted to ask you, now, on this, we have a fund balance transfer here of $922,000. Is that in that fund balance thing you just gave us?
No, because
No.
you've not voted to do that yet.
This is proposed budget.
The fund
Okay,
balance...
but if we were to do this, it would
okay.
come down off that,
Yeah,
right?
listen
Yes.
closely. The fund balance I gave you was at the end of the 2010-2011
Yeah.
fiscal year. So if we move the 922,300, which I'll get to in a moment, that would obviously bring that
That was
fund
my
balance
question.
down.
It's
Yes.
not already in there, okay.
No. Revenue sources for 2012-2013. Exact revenue sources are unknown at this time because the Pennsylvania State Legislature has not enacted a budget for fiscal year 2012-2013. Moreover, Pennsylvania's Division of Federal Programs has not released 2012-2013 Title I and Title II allocations. So as of tonight, the anticipated revenue sources are as follows. From federal sources, last year we received $603,752. We are anticipating the same sum this year, $0 change, 0% change. At the state level, and these are the preliminary figures that we have from the governor, the legislature obviously hasn't enacted a budget, and we would expect them to tweak that, and we're hoping that our numbers increase a little bit. Last year we received $13,974,282. This year we're anticipating $14,136,219. That's a change of $161,937, or approximately 1% increase. At the local level, and this would include property tax, earned income tax, Act 511 taxes, delinquent property taxes, all of those things. Last year, our local revenues were $9,546,130. This year, we're anticipating $9,689,165. That would be a change of, I have a misprint on this, so we'll have to do that subtraction, but about 1.5%. Interfund transfers, last year we had a $400,000 budgetary reserve in the budget. We anticipate not spending a good deal of that, so that will be money left over at the end of this year. For next year, as you recall, you committed your early retirement incentive monies, so we're anticipating interbudgetary transfers for that and the remaining capital projects of $922,300. That would be an increase of $522,300 or 130% change. I wanted to note that Southmoreland has from time to time provided early retirement incentive programs. The purpose of that incentive program is to manage the timing of retirements and to manage reductions in the teaching force to match both programmatic and budgetary needs. Unlike many other districts in our area, we do not offer district-paid health insurance coverage after retirement. That is not in our contract. So the purpose of the retirement incentive is to help folks offset those insurance costs when we're asking a lot of people to retire. We do not offer that. Many districts in the area, as well as the intermediate unit, also provide employer-paid health care coverage to retirees until they're either Medicare eligible or until they reach the age of 65. We do not do that. Question number 4, if there is a decline in revenues, what are the proposed cuts to offset the decline in revenues? As of tonight, we do not anticipate a decline in revenues. Student activities and athletics. Over 100 districts in Pennsylvania have instituted pay-to-play. What has been done in the Southmoreland School District to save money on athletics? The response to that question is the athletic director is working to reduce his budget, beginning by purchasing fewer new uniforms and fewer jerseys. The athletic director, the business manager, and the superintendent plan to meet during late April and early May to discuss other ways to either reduce costs or to raise additional revenues. One example is Southmoreland's ticket prices are among the lowest in the WPIAL, so we may consider doing something at the gate. Approximately 50% of Southmoreland students are eligible for free and reduced lunch. Therefore, pay-to-play doesn't seem to be a prudent choice for this district. That option would eliminate athletic opportunities for many of our student athletes. Athletics and other forms of student engagement have been shown to improve school performance. Question number 6. A savings of $250,000 could be realized by reducing guidance. Is this $250,000 savings reflected in the 2012-2013 budget? The answer is no. The next question is, if not, why not? Southmoreland's achievement relative to its peers across the state continues to improve, as is evidenced by the latest data presented by the Pittsburgh Business Times. Guidance personnel are an integral part of the instructional team and contribute substantially to Southmoreland's academic success. Additionally, many students come to school with a plethora of issues that interfere with their learning. Family strife, grief, child abuse, substance abuse, suicidal thoughts, and sometimes actions, foster placements, truancy, bullying, and anger management are just a few of the things the guidance department deals with on a daily basis. In addition, high school counselors work with current and postgraduate students to secure employment and higher education opportunities. Administration would be delighted to present the board with a detailed overview of the role of the school counselor in today's academic setting at a future meeting. Question 7. What is the pension rate and projected obligation for all employees in actual dollars? Fiscal year 2012-2013, the rate is 12.19%. That's a 41% increase. The estimated cost is $1,260,672. 2013-14, the rate jumps to 16.69%. That's a 37% increase. The estimated cost is $1,605,776,000. $1,605,776. In 2014-15, the rate is expected to move to 21.18%, 27% increase, $2,278,898. And 2015-16, the employer contribution rate is expected to jump to 23.66%, which is a 12% increase, $2,596,652. Question 8. Every contract in the district expired on June 30th, 2011. The district is $49 million in debt, and that does not include annual operating costs of $26,110,910. The district ranks 76th poorest in the Commonwealth, only 24% are more distressed. Poor and drowning in debt, The average citizen's income has dropped from $33,000 to $19,891 a year, yet the district and the union are demanding more on citizens' backs. What will your position be on present contract negotiations and if the teachers strike? Will you vote for a raise in the teachers and administration contract? The answer to that question is history, because the teacher's contract has been settled and the record is what the record is. However, there is some misinformation in that question that I'd like to clear up a little bit. We are not the 76th poorest district in the Commonwealth. Moreover, the statement that only 24% of our students are more distressed is also inaccurate. According to the 2011-2012 aid ratio report, which is found on the Pennsylvania Department of Education website, Southmoreland's personal income aid ratio ranks 292nd from the wealthiest and 209th from the poorest district in the state. And in market value personal income aid ratio, which is the formula that's used to calculate the relative wealth of districts, Southmoreland's rank is 319th from the wealthiest and 182nd from the poorest. In 2009, the median family income in the Southmoreland School District was almost $39,000. According to a financial analysis of the school district that was distributed in September of 2011, the average per capita income in the Southmoreland School District is $24,915. The Southmoreland School District is not $49 million in debt, nor is it drowning in debt. Historically, Southmoreland has paid its debt service as a routine part of its operating expense. The most recent figures from the Pennsylvania Department of Education website for Westmoreland County schools are listed in the following table. And I'm not going to go through every district and their indebtedness, but according to this particular document, the Southmoreland School District, as of the time this was written, was $36,403,989 in debt. Those figures are about a year old, so that debt service would be a little bit less. In the district, there are 4 other school districts. In the county, there are 4 other school districts who have higher debt service than we do at this time. And if you look, those are the districts that, like us, have just completed major renovations. Some of the other districts who have less debt service haven't done as much with their buildings in recent years as we have. Question number 9 from Dave Patonik's numbers regarding Southmoreland demographics. The seniors on fixed incomes, the unemployed, and the low income far outnumber the student body, yet they live here and must pay property taxes. What is the ratio of seniors, unemployed, and low income in the district to students? How have you addressed this disparity in the 2012-13 budget? Who speaks for the elderly, the unemployed, and low-income taxpayers? Administration doesn't have the ratio that was asked for in question number 8. I will continue to research and try to find that. And again, the 2012-2013 budget is still under development. And in terms of who speaks for the elderly, unemployed, and low-income taxpayers, I'm assuming that that's a rhetorical question. The cost of education is the price we pay, however, not to educate our own children, but rather is an investment in the community that ensures the future of society. Thomas Jefferson said an enlightened citizenry is indispensable for the proper functioning of a republic. Self-government is not possible unless the citizens are educated sufficiently to enable them to exercise oversight. It is therefore imperative that the nation see to it that a suitable education be provided for all its citizens. We are cognizant of Jefferson's statement. We're also cognizant of the income situation here in Southmoreland, and we're trying to do our best to reconcile those two issues. In question 10, in a new teacher contract, do you intend to hold teachers accountable for improving competency and student achievement by implementing the new evaluation form? If yes, when and how? The new evaluation system will be implemented according to PDE regulations and timelines, so the answer to the question is yes. And in terms of holding teachers accountable, the latest figures that we have from the Pittsburgh Business Times that I shared with you last week and the Department of Education indicate that Southmoreland teachers are indeed accountable for student achievement and improved competency as our scores continue to increase. What is the average professional income in the Southmoreland School District is question 11, and compare this to the average private sector per capita income. I can't make this comparison because it's not a valid one. For example, a teacher who is the single breadwinner in the Southmoreland School District making $40,000 a year with a family of 4 has a family per capita income of $10,000. Conversely, an individual working in the private sector with a similar education level may make the same salary but yet live alone. Thus, that individual's per capita income would be $40,000. Salary and per capita income are two different things, so therefore they can't be accurately compared. What are health care costs, medical, dental, etc. for each employee? And I'm going to give you the monthly cost. For a single person, medical is $453 a month. Dental is $27.82 a month. Vision is $6.78 a month. The employee contribution for both professional and non-professional employees is currently at $40 for single. Parent and child, $1,096 a month for medical, $81.43 for dental, $6.78 for vision. The contribution rates are $100 in both categories. For the next categories, the dental and the vision will remain the same, $81.43 for dental, $6.78 for vision. For a parent and children plan, the medical is $1,130 a month, husband and wife is $1,223 a month, and a family plan is $1,257 a month. So I've answered the questions that were asked the best way I can, and I will provide you with those answers in writing as well.
Thank you, Dr. Moore.
You're welcome.
At this time, we're going to open the floor up for public comment. Again, consistent with our board policy, we're going to have a 5-minute time limit. At the 4.5-minute mark, I will notify the speaker that there's 30 seconds left to finish their comments. Do I have any?
Oh, may I just
yes.
continue with one more thing? One of the things that is a problem in our district as well as other districts across the county, regular education programs are becoming a little bit more expensive, but for the most part are holding their own. Our problem occurs when we look at the special education students that we're not able to educate here in our own district. And I just want to give you an example of how those costs have risen. The latest report I have is for the 10-11 budget from the IU. Life skills support in 2009, one student, which is considered an ADM, one student unit, was $20,611. In 1 year, April 2010, that number rose to $26,371. Hearing support rose from $96,257 to $107,049. Vision support, $145,200 per student in 2009 to $148,010 in 2010. And that's for individual hearing support. Classroom vision support or classroom hearing support, $89,459 in 2009, up to $94,904 in 2010. Emotional support went from $28,783 to $33,009. This is just per student, by the way. Autistic support, which we're somewhat minimizing because we brought our programs in-house, but to send those kids out, one student is $32,148 in 2009. By 2010, we jumped up to $36,584. Learning support doesn't really apply to us because we don't have IU learning support. But when we get to physical support, $42,044 per student in 2009. By 2010, we're at $53,603. And multi-handicapped, $30,896 in 2009. That jumped to $34,651 in 2010. So you can see what happens when we get to special education bills. Our costs just go up, and the only way we can control those costs at our level is to bring those programs in-house. And I'm assuming, Doctor, that the IU board is also working to control these costs?
Well, Lou Ann Matta has offered to come out to each school district and do an analysis of what it costs you and what it costs her to run these programs. And one of the things she cited is that their teacher salaries are significantly different. That's one item. But when we look at whether you want to bring them in or not, it's not that simple. I think you need to look at what the cost would be if they went there and if they stayed here. And the thing you immediately get slapped across the face with is transportation. I mean, if the first word's out of it, oh no, we have to transport them. Well, you got to look at that too, because we're transporting them now. We're getting them here. Many of them come individually here, right? They come in.
Mr. Clara, you respond to the question?
Do you have special education kids who come like in small vans or individual drivers and stuff like that?
Not for IU classes, but for our in-house
For-
classes.
yes, for you.
For in-house,
Yeah,
it's more,
yeah.
I'm very pleased with that. This big fee,
Okay,
but we have very few listeners.
okay. Well, we don't have very many kids that have that, right?
Very good.
So they, yeah.
That would be a very small amount.
I know a good number of artistic support kids that come here do ride the
They
big
could
yellow
ride,
bus.
yeah, I would think they could, yeah.
But obviously the multi-handicap, but the cost that I gave you did not include transportation.
No, it doesn't, but she has offered to come out and take a look at it and show you apples and apples. is
Sure.
what she's looking at. She does make that offer.
Might have her come down and do that someday. I might give her a call over the summer.
I would imagine your biggest issues would be autistic support. You don't have any individual hearing here, do you?
Individual, no.
No,
We do host the IU group hearing here.
Right. Do you have individual vision? No, I didn't think. A lot of this doesn't apply to us.
Right.
Now, the life skills are the life skills. I mean,
Right.
There's just nothing to be said or done about any of this, actually. But all we can do is look at whether it learning support is all district.
We do that in-house, yes.
All district.
Yeah, and I guess the point I was making was, you know, the cost of education goes up, and I think in the questionnaire that you cited, you know, you talked about when you divide the budget by the number of students we have enrolled, and that enrollment is our enrollment in our buildings, but it doesn't take into account these figures, nor does it take into account the big jump in cost per pupil.
But that's
in a
across
year.
the state. Everybody's figures
Agreed.
reflect the same thing. So
Agreed.
it's an even playing field in that regard.
But that's a
Okay.
cost we need to control.
You say you can control.
We need to control.
You can't. I mean, you can. You can, but it's tough.
Yes, it
It's
is.
tough. I
It's a
mean,
challenge.
I don't see it as an easy thing to. You'd have to take it on it. You don't do it on an individual basis. You'd have to look at it on a classroom
Programmatic
basis, I would
basis,
think.
right.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Kiefer, would you like to address the board with your comments?
Hi, thanks. I respect this forum, and I respect the time that I take away from everyone's evening, and I wish other people, community, would come up, and I certainly would take a back seat. I'm going to go out of order here because I want to pick up right on the conversation you're having now with the special needs children. There's an analogy that I heard at a forum just a couple nights ago, and it's a classic story where the people are pulling sick and dead people out of the stream as it flows through their town, and more and more people keep coming. They get more and more bodies, and no one decides to go upstream and see why these bodies are falling into the stream, why these people are getting sick. So with these special needs of these children, you know, I've spoken before on the link between vaccination damage and the autism and the special needs, and you know, that's a emerging subject that you really need to look at, and you also have to look at the behavioral drugs that these kids are on, and again, go upstream and say, why do we have these kids on these behavioral drugs, and could it be, we're giving them sugar and we're giving them food in their lunch cafeteria that's detrimental to them. And I realize these kids come in, they're damaged material, they want to eat the way they want to do, but I don't think it's the school board's position to give out food that's harming these people and at such a great cost and personal loss. So all my ideas here tonight require a break from conventional approaches to these problems, and I would use the word revolutionary. And maybe these aren't revolutionary. I'd hope they wouldn't be, but I just have a quick list here. Then I can see that a 4-day work week would give us a 25% fuel cost reduction, and the additional heating and building reduction in expenses. And if we would have a sudden national issue where, say, Israel goes in and bombs Iran and gasoline jumps up to $20 or $10 a gallon, you know, we have to have a plans in place for that, and I hope you guys are doing that. And Jackie Baranik's idea 6 months ago about citizens in school, the grandmothers helping, I think there's merit in that. I'm not saying we have to get rid of teachers, but if we could bring that manpower in and that wealth of knowledge, make the laws so that can actually happen, I think the staff could have a great addition to, or we could even reduce staff, whichever way you want to do that. The interest on the loan that we're paying for these loans for the building projects, I want to see buildings. I have a house, and I wouldn't, I'm all for you on that, although I would say there's a little difference, Levi, between an institution going in debt and making that analogous to a person who wants to mortgage out their home. It's a little bit different situation there, but I have a solution there, and the solution is to go to Harrisburg as the education lobbyists do. Instead of saying, we want more money for education, just go down and say, we want less graft. We want you to come in here and do like other states do, like this Pennsylvania does for other major expenses, and fund it up front. So I don't know what the price of the interest is that we're going to pay on our schools, but that would be an interesting figure, so I know how big that is. Moving quick through here, tell me when my 4.5 minutes is up. Food in the cafeteria, this is the area I've spent most of my life studying. It's cheaper to eat healthy. The medical costs down the road are going to be eliminated, and what you're doing is just selecting a diet that's good for the industry and not for the nourishment of the children. The health insurance that we're paying for the staff, and again, it's a product that serves big pharmaceutical industry, the hospital industry, not our biological needs. And just as my revolutionary as my ideas are, I would contend that 70% of the medicine we offer today cannot stand up scientifically, but it gets pushed through. It's a commodity. We're a commodity, and they're a predatory industry. Textbooks, as publishers, a guy told me it costs 25 cents to print a textbook, and the other 99% is intellectual knowledge, and in our case, I would term it as intellectual knowledge on how best to teach to the test. You fixed the largest percentage of the budget when you signed the contract last week, and there's parameters where we're going to go with the teacher's percentage of pay, but let's call a spade a spade. That's whatever, 60% of the budget's 70, 50. All right. So what is your final point then? Perfect timing. What is your fiscal plan for the for any sudden national problems, like I said, with the gasoline or problems that we come up? And if you're not planning for these extreme possibilities, who is? And now that it's before you, I hope you guys say, well, here's our plan for a sudden depression or something that's happening in other countries in the world. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I think now we could turn it over to the board. Everybody could have their say, and then whatever time's left, we'll just have a free-for-all Cracker Barrel discussion about the budget and go from there. I'll start with the young lady to my left. If she wants to have anything to say about the budget. Mrs. Rhodes?
I just want to say that Dr. Molnar and staff will be continuing looking at each building's budget, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they come back with us to us about what their solution is, or how much they can help us out in this in the budget.
Great, thank you. Mrs. Kaufman?
Going on what Jan said, I kind of like the idea myself about the 4-day work week in the summer for administration. I don't know, that was one of the ideas also that the Hempfield school district, not Hempfield area, but the Hempfield school district that we went to in Hershey, they also did that, and they were able to save lots of money just for electricity and things. I mean, I know it's summer and everybody's busy, but it might be nice to have a 3-day weekend. You're here 8 hours already, so, I mean, I don't know. Somebody might want to shoot me in the head for saying it, but it's something to look into. But I, too, am looking forward to hearing from the principals to see what I think you've cut down a lot already from what I can see.
I have some comments about the 4-day work week when we're all done.
Okay.
Mr. Polakowski.
Yes. This year's deficit for the preliminary budget, how does that compare with other years?
Well, being it's my first year, I'm not real sure how it stands with the beginning budget deficit. I will say that, I'll tell you what, you finish your comments, and I'll address that too. That's way.
That was it. Thanks.
Okay. Dr. Fife.
I just have some questions. When you were giving the figures for the retirement, Jack, was that the total number or the increase?
It was both. I gave you,
I meant the dollar figure.
the dollar figure, I estimated what payroll would be, assuming that we might be able to lose some positions and kind of estimating what increases are. And I took that figure, so what total payroll would be, multiplied it by the percentage, 0.12 or 0.23 or whatever the percentage was for the given year. So that's not increase, that's total.
You had said that there was an increase in retirement. You gave us a document at one time that said there was an increase, and that number was $2 million or something like that. That was not an increase then, that was
That's
the
the
total?
total. It's $400,000 increase.
Again, I didn't give you exact figures. I
No,
gave you estimated, you
no.
understand?
It's not. That's not it at all. I'm not concerned about that.
Well, what I did is I tried to aggregate the entire payroll for all departments,
Okay.
and I multiplied that by the
12.1 and the
You're right,
16.1
exactly,
and
yes,
so forth.
yes.
I apologize, Jack, the meeting was at 6 o'clock for administration.
Oh,
Right, 6:30. Sorry.
well, you're
I think
here.
make the dollar short.
We get back something from the state.
Better late than never,
Yes.
right?
I guess.
So according to these figures, between 1213
Are you
and,
still in retirement?
yeah,
Okay.
and 1516, there's,
It's somewhere around there.
$1.5 million increase, right?
Yes, thereabouts.
Okay. So $1.5 million increase equals like 100, or like equals what? How many mills would that be in this school district? 15 mil? No.
100,000 per mill,
Well,
right?
mill's $100,000.
So how many
So it'd
mills?
be like about 14 or 15 mils.
What I'm trying to get at is 14 or 15 mills. Plus, I did the math, and it's $991,000 increases for teacher salaries, so that's another set of mills.
Over 3 years.
Right. That's what I'm talking about, a 3-year thing. Can we, I mean, if you divide that out by 3 years, what do you talk, how many mills a year is that looking?
That's assuming, you're assuming present levels, all right?
Right.
From a strategic standpoint, we have some plans to make some reductions on the expenditure end. For example, we've talked about eliminating the administration building. Not a big savings, but some savings. Mr. Kiefer's idea about a 4-day work week in the summer, that's something that we've talked about a little bit, but that results in savings, especially to bigger districts. Some of the problems with some of these things, even when you look at Norwin's per pupil expenditure, there's an economy of scale. So us being small, we don't see that economy. We've talked about as retirements occur, there will be a number of teachers, a number of positions that won't be replaced, and the associated expenditures, which would include the salary, the benefits, the supplies for certain
Okay, we
programs.
know there are
whatever.
none this year. You said
There
there
are
were
none
none
this
this year, so that's not going to be effective this year. But when you were talking about per capita, I looked up the definition, and per capita applies to people over the age of 18. Age 18 per capita income. So if per capita income was $20,000 and you had a mother, a father, and 2 kids, that family income's $80,000, I don't think. According to what I was able to look up and research, per capita income refers to 18 or
So which
over.
figure are you referring to?
Well, just any per capita income.
No, but I mean the $20,000.
Oh, I just made that up.
Okay.
I'm just saying, if you say a per capita income in our school district is $20,000, a family of 4 has an $80,000 income.
Okay, so I have a figure here of 24,915 as an average per capita income.
So if you had 4 people, Jack, it'd be $100,000, and that's not right.
You know where I got that figure?
Per capita,
You know where I got that figure?
from the papers, I'm assuming.
No, I got that from the analysis of the financial condition of the Southmoreland
Okay.
School District.
Okay, so even if you double that, it's
So
50.
you know which study I'm
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about?
oh, yeah, I know what you're talking. But it doesn't matter, because 19 or 24, that's 5,000 apart, okay? And there's all kinds of numbers. But what I'm getting at is when you say per capita income, it's my understanding it's 18 years and over. So if you had a family with 5 or 6 kids, you
You're
can't...
saying you wouldn't count the kids?
That would be, if your per capita income was 20,000, and you had a family of 6, their income would be 120,000, and it's not. Per capita is age 18 and over.
And my understanding per capita was different than that.
Yeah, so you know, that is there's a big difference. I want to get back to the debt service. We've been through this before. The way I calculated, it's written on the front page. We pay $2,763,000. What is that for?
That service,
Yeah,
and
two.
I'll address that, Dr. Fike, and then after we'll let Levi have his say, and then we'll come back
All right.
around again, okay?
Go ahead.
But debt service is principal and interest, okay?
Right.
Debt is just a principal, okay? When you say you're in debt $67 million, well, that's not entirely true. You're in debt $32 million. The balance of it is interest.
Okay. My position, Bill, has been you will never just walk in with your checkbook and write a check for $32 million. Ever.
Well, if I go to pay off my car early, then I'm just going to come with my checkbook and
That's
pay
your
off
car.
the principal
That's your car.
early.
But are you going to write a $30-some million check from this district? And the answer is no.
Well, no,
Never.
because
Never.
we borrowed the money
Correct.
to build these buildings. And,
Right.
and nobody pays cash for their house. Everybody takes out a mortgage.
No, but what I'm saying is we actually owe that much
Not every, you're
money.
right, Butch. And I guess it depends on the size of your house, too. Well, who said that?
What you keep it?
You're right, not everybody. Some people do pay cash for the house, but it depends on the size of the house and the size of your checkbook. But it's just prudent to finance large facilities like this with a bond issue. That's just how it's done.
Bill, I'm not questioning that. I think you're playing with words when you try to tell people
Well,
it's
we're all
this
playing
much.
with words.
No. When you take this amount of money, that's a figure, times the years we have to pay it, that's a figure.
Right.
That's the figure.
Well,
That's the $40-some million.
okay.
I don't think we ever going to anticipate paying this off early,
No.
so why would we not say the facts? And the facts are that it's going to be, what, 60-some million?
40-some now, Bill, we've paid
40-some
some.
Well, because whenever the county asks me what our debt is, I tell them our debt is $32 million. Well,
But that's not what we owe. You can tell them the debt, but that's not what we owe.
but that's our debt.
And again, I agree with Catherine that that's playing with words. How much do we owe? When I call up and ask somebody what I owe my car, they tell me everything, including the interest.
They do?
Why would they?
Well, when you want to pay your car off.
Oh, I didn't say pay off.
Okay.
Okay?
Well, I think we can agree that we're looking at it in two different
It's a matter of
ways.
semantics.
We don't.
Yeah.
But I think if you want to be
We either owe
honest,
this or we owe this.
But whenever
We're
you-
not going to pay it off.
Whenever the government says they want a figure and they want to know what your debt is, you have to answer them in their vernacular. And their vernacular says your debt is your principal, not principal and interest. So whenever we're speaking here as a government entity and we speak in their language, we should use the proper language, and that debt is whatever we owe.
Well, see, I look at it from the taxpayer standpoint. I think the taxpayers look at how much they owe, and they don't get to say that. They know what they
Well,
owe.
that's why you're their voice.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to tell the taxpayer, that we don't owe the little or smaller amount, we owe a great deal more. And we
Well-
shouldn't beat around the bush on that. That's what we're going to pay.
We're not beating around the bush on that. We're just simply stating the facts.
That final number changes, right? If we refinance the bond?
No, it stays the same.
Stays the same.
Maybe you
Interest
can
rates
list
go
it
down?
separately.
The principal stays the same.
Okay, let's let Levi have his
Ken's
say.
talking about will change,
Yeah.
whether we
Well,
refinance
yeah,
the bond or not, so.
You could refinance, get a lower interest.
Yeah, so that final number you're asking for changes.
It could change.
It will change when we refinance here in a month or so.
Do you have any idea what that's going to be like? That number, interest
Yeah,
rate?
what was
Do you
that
have any
number?
idea? Is it going to be better?
I think it's like 2.5%. To be honest with you, I can't tell you right
I don't know right now.
Instead of what?
I can't say for sure.
It fluctuates, you know.
Levi, do you have anything, any comments on the budget?
Okay, just a few notes here. One is, I think we do budget. We do it in the context of our program, and so I approach it that we have a strong program. The report on where we are with the Business Times, the efficiency of our program, the high educational level that we produce here. So I'm interested we not jeopardize that, or to simply to put it in a positive note, to say that I'm interested in what we do here is we keep that going strong. And so in that context, I think I think it would be helpful to me to hear, because the 900,000 is to close that gap that's a substantive amount of money, and that isn't just looking for 1,000 here and 1,000 there. So I think I would be looking for some guidance from the administration on where this is coming. Are we? And I know it's very sensitive in bringing up cutting program, but if for example, if that's on the blocks, then I would like to hear what's the nature and type of the appropriate time. What are we talking about there? And then we ultimately willing to make a decision. Are we willing to do that? And what is the first recommendation will be very important. The other thing is we have been very well managed. So we do have fund balance here, and we could dip into our fund balance with this kind of numbers for the next, you just saw that, for the next 2, 3 to 4 years, depending, and dip in. But it's a question, how much of that do we want to do? We've in fact looked to kind of build that up. We have in the past several years. Or are we looking for additional revenue? Is the state eventually going to go from this kind of almost flat to increasing the amount that we will be getting from state revenues, or be looking for more local revenues here? I would certainly affirm that we need to move with the very modest kind of increase that we're looking for local revenues. So I think my question would be just to come out here. We have 2 months, but I'll be looking for what are, because I guess my thought is that the 900,000 is still quite a
big gap.
Substantive
big gap
amount, and to hear what is being anticipated.
One of the things that we talked about today at great length was local revenues, and based on past budget, our belief is that local income tax, earned income tax, property tax, and delinquent property taxes will produce more than we have budgeted for. We've tried to budget conservatively in that regard, but if you look at the history of how things have gone and the increases that have gone on over the years, we actually spoke with the former business manager, and he agreed that we were perhaps budgeting a little bit low on that, by 50 to 75,000 on the revenue side, but we wanted to be conservative in that regard. We'd rather come to you at the end of next year and say we budgeted a little bit low on the revenue side and we have extra, as opposed to we budgeted too high and now we're deeper in the hole than we thought we were, and that's not a conversation we want to have.
Just Love?
I only have one question. Levi said that we could essentially dip into the fund balance for the next several years. I was under the impression that we could not do that. You put that presentation up, and are we able to? Aren't we able to?
Well, like I said, the fund balance is a fluid thing. It does fluctuate up and down. And we're still going to have a consistent revenue come in from the taxpayers, from the state, from the federal government. How many years into the future we last just at a flat funding from the state and making up the balance from the fund balance, it's hard to say. If we don't make any programmatic cuts or any personnel reductions, we'll last longer than a lot of our neighbors, but we're not going to last that long. By the same token, the whole educational foundation of the state is going to go by the wayside because we're one of the financially healthiest districts around, and if we can't handle it, then who can? So we're working towards long-term fiscal viability.
To answer your question specifically, we can dip into the fund balance, but it's like at your house. You know, you have a rough month once in a while and you dip into your savings account, but if you do that every month, pretty soon it's wiped out. We don't want to wipe out that fund balance. So, you know, on a rainy day, perhaps, you know, if we have to, but we prefer not to. Does that answer your question?
Mr. Alt, do you have any comments?
Yeah, we just want to
Yeah.
run the table.
Yeah.
Again, I apologize for being late, so I don't know what I missed, but I have a couple questions. Bill, have you presented tonight, or are you going to present tonight, or at what point will you be throwing out some things that you know, we can possibly be cutting, changing, adapting to?
Ask your next question.
Are we going to talk about specifics tonight?
No.
Well, we generally in the past, the board has given parameters, and we have some folks down at this table, myself, Tim, we try to meet those parameters for you, but generally at board meetings we have not gone line item by line item by line item.
When will we do that?
And again, we generally don't do it at the board level.
This is the way I see it. I developed the budget in conjunction with the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, and building principals. All right, and I bring it back to the board, and I do my job, and you do your job. If what I bring back to the board isn't consistent with, you know, what you want, that is, as far as where the finances of the district are, you know, tax increases, fund balance usage, etc., then we need to talk. As far as going line item by line item, that's really something that the building principals, I think, do. The boards.
Let me ask you this, Bill. Are you saying the board is excluded?
No, I'm saying the board's job description is to create policy, to make personnel decisions, and to make programmatic changes.
And not have input on the budget?
Well, if I were to say to you, you know, I think we need to cut, you know, 5 teachers, then that would be a decision that you had to make.
Well, what if I thought that we needed to cut 5 teachers? I don't get to come back to you with that?
Well,
Because somehow this doesn't seem like a two-way street.
If that's, would you like to do that, Butch? Or, sorry, Ken? Mr. Ault?
No, I don't want to cut anybody's job, but you threw the question out.
Right.
I'm saying if that's what I wanted to do, I don't have that input. You come tell me, but I can't tell you. I have a hard time understanding this process as a board member. I think I'm supposed to be speaking for the taxpayer. You know, I have some ideas on how to save money. Where do I bring those up at?
Well, bring them up to me.
But not in this meeting.
Well, how long, I mean, how many ideas do you have?
Does it matter if I have 1 or if I have 20? If it takes an hour, it takes 20 hours.
I
If
say
I
bring
have
it
some
on.
things that address this
If you have-
situation of the budget and it saves us money, then I should be having input.
Well then, why don't you come to the office tomorrow and we'll discuss it.
No, I think we should do it line
I'd
item
like
by
to do
line
it in an
item.
open meeting. I want
We
the
have to do it in an
taxpayers
open
to
meeting.
know what we are doing with their money. I don't think we have to hide anything here.
We don't intend to hide anything, but nor do I intend to go down and look at every $30 purchase line item by line
I agree
item.
with you, Jack.
Okay, I'm not going to, we're not going to sit in the board
I'm
meeting
talking
and do
about
that.
major issues.
Absolutely.
Transportation, personnel.
Absolutely.
Supplementals, whatever it may be. Now, they're not $30 items.
Right.
And I think the taxpayer deserves to hear where we're coming from.
Okay, I'll tell you what. Let Mike have this say. I have addressed a couple of questions from the other board members, and then we'll open it back up, all right? Mike, do you have any comments?
Questions or comments?
Questions, comments on the budget?
To piggyback on what was heard some other people say, what adjustments have been made so far this year compared to last year's? And it's not because I want to micromanage, it's because if somebody comes up to me and has input, then I want to be able to address, this was taken out, or this was left in, or...
At this juncture, there's been a laundry list of items at the building budget level that I've asked the principals to look at and eliminate. One of the examples, we're probably not looking at purchasing and replacing a lot of technology this year out of district funding. Okay. Another thing that has been discussed, and again, we're at the discussion level, we've discussed postponing an adoption, okay, practical and fine arts adoption. So those are the two big things that we've done. There have been a couple of big ticket items that have been in building level budgets that the principals have right off the bat said, no, we're in a tough budget year, we're not going to purchase those kinds of things. And specifically, do I know what they are? No, I met with my principals over the last couple of days, but...
I'm not asking for that type of stuff, but like the one year where we did DK, and there was a big controversy over that, it's the kind of stuff I'm asking. Is there anything like a controversial thing where maybe we not want to make a decision,
we have not proposed any programmatic changes at this juncture.
And I know it's kind of early for this bill, but how does 2011, 2012 look like it's going to finish?
We're going to be pretty close. We're not going to have a huge addition to the fund balances in past years. Mrs. Kaufman, you had mentioned about the 4-day work week. When Mr. Meeswell and I went to that maintenance seminar, that was one of the things they brought up. There are a lot of large districts that shut down after 4-day work week.
Just in the summertime.
But just in the summertime. The thing is, which buildings do we heat, which buildings do we cool? I'm not sure our operating system is set up to shut down like that. Whenever you shut down the air conditioning, it's going to take that much more work to bring it back up to speed. It's just like, where do you keep a thermostat at home? Is it 68 all winter, or do you turn it down at 60 at night and then, bring it back up in the morning? So, frankly, the guy that was putting on this seminar said it's really a wash. As far as it being a budget deficit versus past years, again, like I said, it's my first one. I can't really address past years at this point. I will say, though, that in comparing where we are to where other districts around us are, it seems we're right about the same ballpark that they are. We're all looking at a deficit right now, and we're all looking at ways to reduce that deficit. Mr. Miller, you had asked about where the big cuts going to be, when are they going to be made? If there are any big cuts to be made, they will be made in the next 2 weeks. There needs to be discussion with the board about those cuts, especially if they're programmatic or personnel changes. Having said that, let's let Mr. Alt bring up some of his ideas, and maybe that will bring to light some of the big cuts.
Okay. Transportation. do we have some kind of plan in place that we can sit down and take a look at these bus routes and possibly go to the park and ride type system? You know, can this save us some money? You know, where these kids are centrally located, their buses are centrally located in areas. You know, I'm sure there are some parents that are not going to like that idea, but we're interested in keeping this budget as low as possible and doing the right thing by the taxpayers. And rather than have a bus travel all over eternity, picking up kids here, let's find a central location that we either get for free or we rent. People drop them off there, and then the bus comes here.
Well, transportation is a big expense, and that's not a bad idea. And then if they're going to drop them off at one central location, then why don't they just drop them off at the school?
Okay. You want to tell the parents that? I mean, I don't really have a problem with that.
Ken, just a couple of things on that issue. By law, I believe students are permitted to walk up to a mile before we have to provide transportation. So that would be including a mile to the bus stop.
Right.
All right. The other thing that has happened in the governor's proposal, there used to be a transportation formula, and it was rather complicated, but the way of simply put, the less buses you had on the road and the more miles you put on those fewer buses, the bigger your reimbursement was for those buses. That formula is gone. Okay, and there's a flat amount in there now for transportation reimbursement. And actually, we just had this conversation this afternoon about getting with Mr. Swinton, talking about how to reroute, because we know that some of the buses in the outlying areas aren't filled to capacity. So is there a way that we can, lessen the number of buses on the road and get them filled to capacity? Park and ride's not a bad idea. I do have some safety concerns about that. We hear those stories about the gray vans without the license plates all the time. And obviously our first concern would be for student safety when they're walking those long distances, especially in remote areas. But having said that, in areas that are more densely populated, I think your idea is something that needs to be looked at.
How many students do we have that walk a mile to get a bus?
Right now? None.
Absolutely. What's wrong with us following the law?
Well, again, the law says a maximum of a mile.
Some walk in Scottsdale, don't have a bunch of
Yeah, we do have walkers that walk in Scottsdale. So that's my point, Doctor. There's no reason that some of these folks can't walk to a centralized location.
Why isn't it happening?
Well, you'd have to ask the people that plan the routes, because I don't know. K to 12.
K to 12.
That's the law. So I think we need to look at.
But that's not, mind you, that's what the school code says.
That's code.
These bus routes are set up to maximize our state reimbursement. And that's why you see these routes set up all over eternity. Now that this formula has gone by the wayside, I'm hoping there are some other economies of scale that we could take advantage of.
One of the things you'll see if you happen to be in the right place at the right time on the buses, there's a really, really big blonde-haired kid that rides the buses, because Charlie's actually riding the routes with the drivers to see where the stops are, how close together they are, how full the buses are. So he's getting first-hand information, and I think he's planning to make some changes. We're also going
Jack,
to
I've personally observed driveway-to-driveway pickup.
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying, I am not saying, Doc, that it doesn't happen.
And the same road that this kid runs around all summer long becomes a dangerous road on August 30th. Okay?
Understood.
Okay.
And I'm saying we're willing to look at that and change it. I'm not arguing with you, okay? I'm not.
No, I know.
I'm not disagreeing. You find that hard to believe, I know, but I'm not disagreeing with you.
Okay, one more.
Times like somebody walks their kid out the door and up half a block. And then the bus goes down this street and that street. Why can't these parents walk them 2 blocks over to this corner? Instead of that bus traveling all over and time consuming. The kids don't want to spend the time on the bus also.
Now, we may have to hire 2 additional secretaries with 10 ears to field those phone calls when they come in.
Another problem with the park and ride, it is economically disadvantaged. How many families out there only have 1 car, and maybe the husband's at work already, and child to a park and ride location.
Well, that's,
You know what, I won't argue with you there. I understand that, but how far do we take our,
Nanny state.
oh, yeah, I hate to put it that way,
The nanny
but how
state.
far do we go because somebody doesn't have the money or somebody doesn't have a second car? You know, we can't continue to keep spending money and not have the revenue for it. We have to look. I mean, I would rather cut other things than have anything to do with the students.
well, let's talk about
Ken,
activity buses for a minute.
we've conceded that we need to make our transportation system more efficient. Okay, gotcha.
Where
Got
are we
it.
going from here?
Okay.
I mean, who's in charge of it?
Charlie.
Charlie Sweet?
Who's in charge of it? The people in the central office are in charge of getting this done.
Okay, and when will you report back to us on that?
On transportation,
Yes.
he
Next
works on
month.
those routes in the summer, but,
Next month?
well, he works on the routes in the summer, but he'll be able to report back as to what some of his ideas are in the near future.
What about activity buses?
What about
They're empty.
Do you want to keep them? You want to get rid of them?
They're empty.
it? What's your alternative?
How many you got?
Well, I don't know. My alternative is that the kids find their own way home.
How many?
How many
School
is
bus?
there?
This is after school.
Like after football practice.
Oh, you're not familiar with what an activity bus is?
Not really.
Like after football practice, the kids get on the activity bus and get the bus ride home.
Each individual bus.
No, it's fewer buses.
Yeah, we run,
I mean, if
perhaps,
we're going to be involved in activities, I don't think we should be dropping them off with the bus.
and how about tutoring buses? Because after-school tutoring is an integral part of what we do for student achievement, and we have parents that don't send their kids if there's no bus ride home. So do we allow achievement to suffer?
That may be something that we want to keep
Yeah.
in there. I mean, that's education.
Yeah.
We're not talking apples
Education.
to apples
Yeah.
here, and you're talking activities, and you're talking about tutoring. I don't have a problem with tutoring, but I do have a problem if somebody wants to play football, if they can't get a ride home, then I guess they're not going to practice that day.
They're the same buses, aren't they, John?
Maybe we can
No.
look into how much the price is for that and bring that back to us
Not
for
at
the
the
next.
elementary
or,
level.
I
Well,
mean,
I'll bring that up.
My
Well,
experience with the activity bus is, you're right, there's not a lot of riders on there.
In-
It's
in-
usually empty.
In the past,
One or two.
in the past, it was not a smart idea to get rid of activity buses because of the formula I just told you about. Because we wanted to put those miles on the
Right.
buses because that increased our reimbursement. But now, it's a different ballgame.
Bill, can you again please answer that question about the fund balance transfer of $922,300 and whether or not that is in addition to the $916,788?
The fund balance transfer that's in that summary is covering the ERIP and the contingency fee. That's all. It's not covering the $900,000 deficit.
Okay, I guess
Whoa,
my
I'm
question
sorry.
is upside down. Did you take $922,300 out of the existing fund balance in order to come up with this figure of revenue?
The $25,686?
The line above it?
Yes, that's the transfer that we'll make for the ERIP, early retirement plan, and the to offset any overages on contingencies.
I don't care what it's for. The bottom line is you took $922,300 out of the fund balance
Right.
and counted as revenue. Now we
Right.
get down to
No,
the
having
bottom.
said
No,
that-
but
having
you,
said that-
but that
having
was
said that,
designated as committed.
You committed that money, so we
So
had to do
you
that.
have to do it.
Not all $922,000.
The EREP portion,
The
How
early
much is
retirement
that?
portion.
I don't know.
500,000.
That's about 500,000, and then
Okay.
the 400,000, which is budgetary reserve, always comes out of the fund balance, and most years it goes right back into the fund balance as well because we never planned
Okay,
to
so
spend that.
you put those two together
Right,
to get the $922,000.
right.
Okay, in addition to that, go down to the bottom of the page where it says the deficit is $916,788.
Right.
Okay. You're not taking that out of the fund balance too?
Well, if we decide not to make any more cuts, that's where it would come from, yes.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
so now
It's not such a good move. Well, I mean, I don't care, it doesn't matter, it's fine. But the bottom line is, we need to show then that the fund balance goes down by even more.
Well, the committed fund balance.
I would really like to stay along with Mr. Alt and what he's working on
to
here.
answer your question, Dr. Fike, if you look,
I think he's on to something here.
on page where the fund balance was, first page. All right, the $1,400,000 committed for early retirement incentive. Okay, that's not part of the net of $3,000,003. So the early retirement that he's talking about comes out of the money that you folks voted to commit out of that fund balance already. So we're not counting that as part of the money that we have available to us as a reserve
You've
fund.
already taken it out once, right?
Well, we've put it in a lockbox, as Al
right.
Gore would
That's what I
say,
say.
right?
It's already been taken out once. Okay. Now, so this $916,788, that's $1 million. Okay, so that has to come out then. It's another $1 million, so that would take the fund balance down to $2 million.
If we made no further reductions, yes. If we made no further reductions and had no additional revenue, yes.
It would take it down to about 2.5.
And this is where I guess maybe Ken and I are the only ones saying, what are we going to talk about? Because you're not giving us anything to talk about.
Well, okay.
And we're just discussing different ideas.
But no, that's fine. But I'd be interested just in, I thought this was helpful, but I'd be interested in hearing more ideas, like this transportation, just of hearing people, and Ken, you had some ideas. I'd be interested.
Well, I didn't come prepared for the ideas, but I'll throw some of them on here since Bill wants to talk about. Dietary. If little Johnny don't want to eat his green beans, let's not order green beans anymore. You know, let's try to cut some spending in the dietary department. And I think Ms. Huggins can give us some advice there. I mean, we need to contact her and say, where can we cut some costs?
Excuse me, Ken, just to clarify, there's no dietary in here. That is its own separate account. It runs as its own separate business. Okay, so that's not even included in here.
So it's not included?
No. The money that's generated through food service pays more than pays for it. Yeah, and honestly, we are kind of told how many green beans we have to feed little Johnny. We don't have a choice in that matter.
Well, it's no material since we don't have to worry about it. Supplementals. For years I've been asking for the supplementals to be looked at and cut. And all I got from the administration in Hatfield was lip service. Yeah, we're looking at it, we'll do something. And I've been on and off the board, and it's been 5 years, and I don't think we've done anything with one supplemental. So maybe it's time we take a look at the supplementals.
Weren't they all frozen?
Well, they're all frozen.
They're all frozen.
For the
and-
3 years.
And there are supplementals there, a few at this juncture that are not being filled. They're just vacant, and we intend to leave them that way for a while.
But unless we cut all supplementals, we're talking peanuts.
You got to start somewhere.
You have to start somewhere.
You got to start somewhere.
No.
You know, if we can save 10,000 in supplementals, 10,000 is not chicken feed.
Do you have specific ones in mind?
No, I don't even have the list anymore. One time I had the list when I thought we were actually going to do something with it, and again, I just got the results.
Well, there are areas there that maybe we can look at, maybe catch 1,000 here, 1,000 there. You're right.
There's another one.
That comes from the principals, right? That would be building principals for giving that suggestion?
Yes. Administrative team.
It's no secret, I'm not talking anybody's specific salary, but our administration is one of the highest in southwestern Pennsylvania.
It is?
I believe it is. I sure like to get a job in the administration down here. I think we ought to see if they'd like to take some voluntary rollbacks to help our budget.
Okay.
Probably we'll get those all the way around the table.
Not all the way.
Bill, I'm going to stop there.
Well, don't they have a contract? But wouldn't that be breaking their contract? Don't they all have a contract?
I said volunteer.
All volunteer. Okay.
You know, again, I'm not going to throw figures out there, but I think we have flyers and brochures out there that are pretty explicit about the cost of the administration here. and all the different positions. I have nothing against these people individually, but we, I think, are top-heavy in our administration and very well paid to the point that in, who said it, small community like ours? I don't know. I think we need to take a look at that.
I will say, compared to other districts our size, same market value, personal income aid ratio, same size student population, same number of buildings, same demographics. Our administration is right on par. In fact, we're light a couple administrators.
Well, now when you start comparing the districts around here, you know, you want to compare apples to apples. We always say apples and oranges and stuff here. Let's look at the facts in this area. We are up here. We are up here. We're the poorest community, and we got salaries way up here.
And we'll put that study together for you when we have the actual facts and figures.
Let's test that a little further, Mr. Alden. We can objectively say what is the percent of our budget that goes to administration and do that kind of those kind of numbers. But we can still, but let's on a more subjective level. And by I only say that in the sense that we as a board make a decision on it. Okay, that we make a decision on it. And so I'm calling that because those are judgmental calls that we make.
Personnel.
When we hire and we advertise for administration, we get good applicants, in my experience here in 3 years and earlier, in the neighborhood of anything from 3 to 15. And you can argue with that. So the pool is not that big that we're drawing from. And if I think of that, then of attracting people who have produced for us, who have produced, and I know it's a team effort, it's teachers, it's everybody. And then I compare, let's say we just open it for an elementary school teacher, and I totally respect that. But the pool, if you talk about the market supply, is often between 50 and 100. So there, clearly, we're competing with a fairly select group here, and at least as I view it, we are very competitive and are getting a good bar on the administrative level. I'm just saying that. And as a board, I have no apologies for the decisions that we have made. In fact, I think we've made very good decisions, and I really would hope that we wouldn't undervalue ourselves on that.
Just in the sake of accuracy.
Just as a.
So we are comparing apples to apples. I certainly don't have the information here with me this evening, but I do have the Westmoreland County salary comparison from the Westmoreland IU, and position by position. And we have, I'm not sure if we have any positions that are above the average salary in Westmoreland County, but I do know that we have many positions that are
Would you like to read it, or you want me to?
average.
Well, this is from PSBA.
And that's not going to have the Westmoreland County.
No, but it does it by poverty level, area. We are always compared to Franklin Regional, and you know, let's talk about Monessen. Let's talk about Section 3. Well, Section Area 3, the PSBA breaks you down into areas, and it's
PSBA also does a salary comparison of national geographic regions, and within the Northeast region, which we're considered, we're well below the average salaries of administration in that region.
Washington for that, Lee, I would totally disagree. In the education heyday of spending, you might not have, that may have been true. But right now in this economy, if you open up one of these jobs, you'll have 9 million qualified applicants at your door willing to take the job at half the price.
I have the figures.
Have we had that happen when we opened positions in administration? But you're saying that
we haven't opened one.
Actually, within the last couple of years, we've hired.
What have we hired?
Vince Macias
We've
anymore.
we've hired a principal, we've hired an assistant principal, we've hired
In-house
two
or do
principals.
we advertise?
We advertise.
We advertised and we took the best candidate.
Can I have the
I'm
figures?
not even gonna go there. I won't go there.
Can I have
Go
the
ahead,
figures?
Kathy.
For
Because I'm
example,
not here to demean anyone.
No, I know you.
I'm not here to demean anyone.
in February of 2012, PSBA put out the summary. Okay, everybody got it. If you look at districts with our aid ratio, we get 65 cents of every dollar from the state. The average superintendent salary is $126,250. If you look at Region 3, which is Western Pennsylvania, we're looking at the lower corner there, their average salary is $115. They have Washington and Green. Their average superintendent salary is $115,000. Ours is $136,343. Assistant superintendents, aid ratio 103,000. Area 3, Section 3, or Area 3, 107,000. Ours is 117,000. Elementary.
117,000.
What is it? 115?
That's incorrect.
Which one is it? 115? You know where I got that figure?
Well, you're saying
I got
it's
that
wrong,
figure out of the
Jay. What is
budget. I got it out of the budget. I got it out of the budget. That's where I got it. I mean, I don't make this stuff up.
If you're gonna sit there and tell us we're wrong, then tell us
Tell
what
us
is
what
right.
it is, because I got this out.
117 is incorrect.
Well, then what is
What
it?
is it?
Mr.
What
Owens
is-
can believe it.
What is
or he can
correct?
I don't
What is
believe it.
correct?
When you show me, I'll believe it.
Tell us
I'm
what
not
it
gonna
is.
take anybody's word for it, because that's the problem. We've taken too many good words from too many good people.
But I took this from the budget.
That knew better than us.
I'm just telling you it's incorrect.
Where's the report, Catherine, that we put out about this community and all the
Oh,
surrounding?
yeah, we have that. We have that.
I'll bring that. I will come much more prepared to the next budget meeting, when will that be? When's our next,
We'll make it tonight. We'll make the date tonight.
That's fine. I will come much more prepared.
Our principals make 104,000, 105,000, 84,000, and so forth. The average is 85, 85, 84, 88, 88, 82, and it just continues the whole way down. And we are the highest if you compare it to people with our aid ratio. In other words, how much money do we have? That's where that's what these people pay. In the whole Region 3 for PSBA, how much do they pay, and then how much do we pay? We're way above
Are they
everybody.
starting salaries that you're quoting?
It's right now, Josie. It's
Because
what people are making right
Our
now.
administrators have been here for 10,
So
15
does everybody
years.
else. So does everybody else.
And so their salary should be a little higher because
So is
if that's
everybody
starting
else's.
salary.
So
So
is
that's what my
everybody
question was,
else's.
if it was just starting
No,
salary.
no, no, no. It's
We
what
have
everybody's
some new
making
ones,
today.
Josie,
It's what's making
which,
today.
Who exceed longer-term employees in other districts.
Okay, let's go on for some new ideas. Anybody else?
I'm done.
I have a new one.
Go ahead.
How about to bring in revenue? Another one of the things that we talked about out in Harrisburg was pre-K programs. We have a lot of, I don't know, I think we have some empty classrooms in some of the schools. To start a pre-K program where the revenue would come in from that tuition. And I mean, I know it takes a lot of money to run it, but if it's run accurately, it's possible to start our own pre-K.
I have the YMCA do it, because the YMCA was going to look into that. Why have them do it? We can do it ourselves. We get the revenue.
Well, actually, the YMCA was looking into before and after school care, not a pre-K, yeah. And the revenue from before and after school care is, we're not going to make anything on that one.
Did that ever go anywhere, or have we never heard anything
They
more
have
about that?
they're doing a survey to see if there's community interest.
Can we talk about the sacred cow?
What's that?
Athletics. It's $500 and almost $50,000. $550,000 for athletics. That's over $500,000. And I disagree totally, Jack. You know, we're still going to be friends. Athletics is not the thing that's building all this character and so forth. That may have been the case at one time, but we only have to look at the whole concept of athletics and what it's become in this nation. And I'm not saying you have to eliminate student athletics, but I picked up the newspaper.
Just to interrupt, I think you misunderstood me. I said athletics is one piece of student engagement. Okay, I didn't talk about character building, work ethic, any of that stuff. I'm talking about kids belonging to the school community. That was my, go ahead.
I've also found, Jack, that many kids who can't make it in athletics feel very excluded.
Sure.
It's a two-way sword, believe me. I'm sure all of you read the paper at some point. Just this week, these were the articles that appeared where Hempfield, Belle Vernon, Deer Lakes, Manessa, all these people, every one of them is pay to play or cut. They're cutting. Hempfield was looking at some really big cuts in athletics. Eliminating middle school and ninth grade sports programs totally. Of course, they're going to reduce the district's educational program, lay off a large number of teachers. And again, we look, if you can't learn from what's going on around you, you can't learn. When you're looking at an athletic complex that rivals Hines Field, and then we're going to cut athletic programs to pay for it, I think we need to really take a long, hard look at athletics. I was shocked the other day when I found out that when we hired one coach, we actually hired 6. I didn't realize that. Right?
It was in his assistants.
6 coaches.
But they're always in his budget. That's
exactly my point. I didn't realize when you hire one, you hire 6 coaches. It goes back.
Well, let's go on your supplemental list for your.
There you go. But if you break down supplementals, there are 89 of them. We have some academic supplementals, but according to what I remember, the vast majority of our athletics supplementals. But I think we need to look at the sacred cow, which is, of course, pay to play. And I think it's just going to become the norm. We're just, steps behind. We're either going to make it or we're not. But by the time we get to it, it might be too late. But I think we really need to take a long, hard look.
What would you say for the children that are on free and reduced lunch? Do they have to pay also?
Absolutely. You want to play? You pay. Okay. Case closed. Bill, we do fundraisers for everything in this school. We can do a fundraiser for them. We can do a fundraiser for them.
Bill, I've done softball voluntarily for 25 years this time. And there are so many kids that can't afford to play. But yet they find the money somewhere. Or we find a way to raise the money for them. It's not a cold-hearted thing. There's never been anybody in the 25 years I've been coaching softball that got turned away because they couldn't afford to pay. We found a way with fundraisers or one way or another. But I think we need to be proactive here. The days of sitting back. We're in good financial shape, according to Bill. If that's the case, then I think we need to try and stay ahead of the game and not wait until it all catches up to us.
What's the price of pay to play? What do other districts charge?
What they do, they go, it's $50 for the year. In other words, if you want to play 3 sports, it's still $50.
Yeah, it's for all the sports.
But they cap it out at $100 per family. If you have 5 kids, you don't pay it 5 times. The family cap is $100.
So how much do they get from that?
Well, it would depend on how many kids are involved.
Yeah, is that per sport?
We must have a lot of kids involved because we sure have a lot of coaches. No, it's per person.
If you pay $50 for one
what percentage of the budget
does
that go towards their athletic department? Is it a
I don't know.
figure?
We can't find out.
I'm talking Hempfield.
Oh, yeah. Hempfield was several $100,000 they were going to collect.
From pay to play, $100,000.
Oh,
they
yeah.
have a much bigger.
Oh,
sounds more than $50 per student.
Well, they're a big district.
I just want to remind everyone, at 7:30, do we have a lot more questions or things?
Now, are we going to charge a fee just for athletics, or are we going to also charge a fee to participate in chorus and band?
I'm talking about athletics.
Just athletics.
Bill, I see chorus and band as academically related. I see academic value as part of our curriculum. We do teach music and chorus. We don't teach football. Okay?
What about the idea some school districts only, if to cut on their budget, just go to the home games? They don't have the busing for away. As far as, like...
I don't know what you mean, Jess.
Like the band. Some were saying, well, the
oh,
band
yeah,
and the
they did.
cheerleaders
They
aren't go to the away games. They're just going to the home games. I mean, again, it's just all different ideas to talk about and see. I mean, we'll see what Charlie has to say and what he can come back with.
Josie, there are schools that say you buy your own uniform. we've never looked into it. Nobody's ever talked about it. We have nothing to talk about because nothing is ever brought up.
Well, we do. Okay, I don't want to get into the process. I think it's an interesting idea, and other schools are looking at it, and I think I'm ambivalent. On the one hand, I think it's a good idea for kids to recognize the value of the cost involved. I understand it's not that big an income generator. The numbers wouldn't probably be that big, but there may be value in it. On the other hand, there is a kind of not wanting to discriminate against the poor kid who wants to play. But I don't know.
That's why we have Boosters Club, isn't it? Boosters Clubs? Isn't that what they're supposed to do? Stuff like this?
When I was...
I'm sorry. You said that they're looking at it. They're not looking at these programs. They've instituted these programs. And that's why I'm not saying that I'm in favor or against it.
Sure. I realize that.
Whatever we're looking at, we need to do it. We don't talk about it, we need to do it.
Well, maybe we should. And correct me if I'm wrong on that, is I've kind of watched it where it's been instituted has been in wealthier districts is where it's, and I think probably it's easier to do, just politically in terms of the population supporting it, because most everybody can afford it better. And maybe we should do it the same because we're competing. I'm just saying, but I haven't seen so many of the poor districts doing it for probably the reasons that we're talking about here, of trying to be a little more sensitive here to
your boosters and your fundraisers that come through. Because I'll tell you what, I'm amazed at the hundreds and hundreds of kids that we have just alone in softball and other areas that the money we raise is fantastic. I mean, as a parent and as somebody with a kid in sports, I don't want to sell Hoagies, but if that's what you have to do, then that's what you have to do. If you're poor and you want to play softball, whatever sport.
Is there any way to do a report of what we have now, the students we have playing sports now?
Yeah, I'll ask Charlie to put something together.
Just to see what it would
Yes,
involve, how much revenue it would bring in?
I'll find that out. Okay, it's 7:35. I think we said we were trying to end this meeting at 7:30 so we could get down with the Steelers play volleyball.
6 to 8.
Well, the event starts at 8, but we can sit here. It's fine.
Do we want to pick a date to meet again before talk about the May meetings? When we want to hold the May meetings?
Well, the first week of the month is going to be our regular discussion meeting.
And then a special voting meeting.
And a special voting
May
meeting.
3rd.
And then we wanted to defer the regular voting meeting to the end of the month to vote on the preliminary budget.
So 31st or the 24th?
24th.
So what do you do with that? What are our meeting dates now?
The 3rd and the 24th. So we need a budget meeting.
The 3rd will be a planning meeting and a special voting meeting. And then we will need a voting meeting on the 24th because that will get us to the deadline that we need to be at in order to post the preliminary budget.
And do we want a special budget meeting in there, like the 17th?
On the 10th.
That is Mother's Day.
May 10th?
May 10th is Thursday.
Thursday.
It doesn't mean, I don't have a problem with it.
It's a Thursday.
Mother's Day is on a Sunday.
Mother's Day is probably either 6th or the
13th. 13th.
The 13th. Yeah, there it is, Mother's Day is the 13th.
May 10th. Not Mother's Day?
It usually is, but it's a Thursday this year. May 10th is a Thursday. 13th is the Sunday. The 10th is that enough time, or do you want the 17th to give you one more week to get all your information you need?
Okay, 17th. That's good then.
I think the 10th is better.
You're right, 10th is
because
better.
on the 10th we get board input that gives Bill 2 weeks to put it all together to vote.
Okay.
I don't want to come here, talk 1 week and vote the next.
Okay.
What time will that be?
Maybe 7 o'clock, guys?
7,
7 o'clock,
okay,
doesn't
or
matter.
6 kind of rushes everybody. 7?
7
So
o'clock?
the 3rd, 10th, and the 24th.
That'll be here.
Here.
You send your
You'll
email.
do it, Kathy.
We're all 3 at 7?
Yes.
If we're finished, there's something I'd like to deal with very briefly. Josie, did you and Mike tell me there were never policy committees? Is that, there weren't any policy committees?
I didn't say never.
Well,
Going
okay.
back into our large book.
2010 there wasn't.
And then when there was not, quote, a policy committee, and then when Sam came in, he put the board as a whole has the whole
Okay,
policy.
but you were saying there were no policy committees?
Back in the budget, in the blue budget book, in the blue policy book, I'm sorry.
If you look at the policy, double O, whatever, it specifically states the standing committees of the board. Policy committee is not listed.
The reason I ask is,
Well, I've had a comment here that we're getting beyond the budget meeting and we advertise it as a budget meeting.
Well, then let's,
Okay, save it for the 3rd.
let's
Can we
just,
bring that book down and we can look at it? Catherine.
I'll take care of it, Josie.
Okay. Well, it's good to talk about. We got to get it all out. Thank you. Any other questions on the budget? Any other questions on the budget or comments before we ask for motion?
Are we going to be given specific information before we vote?
oh, yeah.
Yeah, because we have the 10th, we'll have more information on all the ideas. And then we'll hear from the
Oh,
principals.
not just the ideas, not just the ideas. Are we going to have information? There are only 20 categories or whatever. You have information on those.
It seems to me that procedurally, a board member can bring up a motion at a voting meeting for whatever item it is. And I'm saying that to anyone here, and then we can decide on it. I thought the spirit of this line by line is that we're not going to take the budget and go through it as a group line by line, but anybody wants to bring up issues, whether it's transportation related, athletic related, there's no limits on free speech here, except defaming someone. Whatever constitutionally the limits would be, or policy-wise.
Do all of our budget meetings have to be public meetings?
Yes.
They do have to be public.
Yes.
They should.
And they should be.
Oh,
I'm not asking this, I'm just going by what Mr. Alt said earlier. What if he wants to bring up personnel? Can that be executive session?
Yes.
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 Does that answer what you're asking?
in a way, yeah. I mean, there are some issues that, we can sit down and talk about outside of the public forum.
No, that would be the specific issues that are outlined under sunshine, yes.
For example, when the Hempfield board said, you're going to lay off 25 teachers, okay, how did they come to that point where they could say that? As my question. Whoever talked to who about it? They don't just pull this out of the air. Somebody had to talk.
Well, perhaps that was the recommendation of their administration. I don't know, but I would suspect that Dr. Leopold or Mr. Leopold and Mr. Abraham presented a budget to the board recommending that they lay off 25 teachers. And I don't know. I don't go to the Hempfield board meetings, so I like ours too much.
So if I think that we have particular overstaffing in in a particular area, how do I deal with that? In executive session?
Right.
When are we going to have that then?
Guess we'll have it then.
I think there's a little bit of confusion here. If you were going to discuss a particular person's employment, I think that's the real gist of dealing with an executive session for personnel. If you said, I make a motion to direct the administration to come back with a report to cut 10 positions in the district. Well, I guess you could do that, and I don't know whether or not the administration's going to come up with it, and be able to justify it with the way that you're allowed to reduce furlough under current Pennsylvania law. It may be a daunting task, but you could do that, because you're not saying, well, I want you to fire or furlough person A, K, Z, and Y.
Correct, and that's what I'm talking about, David. I'm talking about a bigger picture.
Then that would be a programmatic issue, which would be appropriate for public
No,
discussion.
you just handled that today when you started the meeting, because there was a recommendation to eliminate guidance services.
Correct.
And that was brought up in public program.
And I think right, if someone, guidance services, whatever, administration, transfer, whatever we want to bring up, can be brought up. I would expect a vigorous discussion, however, from the total board,
right,
on whether that is a wise move.
Right.
Is it a wise move to reduce, let's say, library leadership or guidance leadership or elementary education number of teachers, so-and-so teachers, or pre-kindergarten, which we discussed, or whatever. I would expect input from the staff to give their view of how this would impact the total program, and I would expect a vigorous discussion on that in regards to whether that really is a board. You know what I mean? Whether the majority of the board would feel that that is the direction to go.
How would we get that discussion? See, Levi, I think Ken and I are both saying the same thing. We're not involved in any discussions or ideas up until tonight. This is the first.
Here, let me use this for an example. Under transfer, under maintenance. You know, at what point, how do I want to put this? We had some failures for administrators, obviously, in not keeping track and doing their job, that we had so many supplies over there. Okay? Now, where do we get into the budget aspect of that from the board's
point of
perspective?
view? Yeah. How do we do
You know,
that?
if obviously somebody wasn't doing their job, or we wouldn't have had all these old supplies over there. You know, if you know something and you can do something about cutting costs, we need a forum to talk about it. So where do we do that?
Where's the
If
forum?
we don't do it now here,
Where's
where
the
do we
forum?
do that? You know,
Right here.
there's a million questions I can be asking.
Well, Ken,
about.
that particular forum I addressed with our maintenance director.
Well, we
looked
did.
at
I was
them.
just using that as an example.
Right, so I guess the answer to your question is we need to be doing our jobs, and that's what we work at diligently on a daily basis. And as in that particular example, one of the reasons for that, and I'm not making excuses for previous maintenance directors, but there was no central storage facility that was adequate to store things in an organized fashion. So nobody had any idea what was where. Okay, now we have that. So now we can, we'll be reducing some of those supply costs. And we'll be having that discussion with Mr. Mizwa in the next week or so. But yeah, I hear where you're coming from.
But I thought when we came here tonight, we'd be getting class sizes and staffing and ratios and assignments and stuff. Nothing. Got nothing.
Just to rebut that, Levi, I think we have to, as board members, have to have input. Because if we just listen to, and again, I'm not denigrating, I try to keep up on things. If we just listen to the administrator side, and we have administrators that don't want to reduce class size, and that's the recommendation, where's the rebuttal to that?
Where's the stuff?
If you feel that is not the direction to go, I would expect you to present that.
And Doctor, to get back
that would
to
need
your
to be
point,
tested then
we
with
do
the
have
rest
a
of the
meeting
votes.
scheduled for next week, and
With
on
that, I
that
would totally
agenda,
expect
the
you to
administrative level
expect
staffing.
you to do that
What did you say, Jack?
in this setting.
What'd you say?
So we're going to be looking at staffing next week.
I guess I thought this would all be done by now. This is May.
But isn't in part, let's be honest here, isn't in part, my things do not discuss if I don't agree with something in that. And I think we have a lot of openness here in this board to bring things up and to say things. and I would certainly want to defend it, that we do. And I'll just give an example. If the thought is that our administration is top-heavy and is not doing its job, I would really be advocating we have a strong administration. And you don't get a collaborative learning. You do not get strong academic achievement by saying each one does what he or she wants to do in their classroom. You get it from administrative leadership, and you pay for that. And whether that's 10,000 more, I wouldn't even argue about the numbers, whether it's 10,000 or 20,000 more than Monessen pays, a low achieving district. I don't even want, I'm sorry for them, and it's painful to bring up another district, but do not, I would strongly defend the record of our administration here. At the same time that I strongly defend your right here as a board member to say we should make this change or that change. But just to give an example, bring them up. That's why we're around the table. Bring them up and let's discuss them. But then we're going to make a decision. And just because mine isn't approved doesn't mean we haven't talked about it. It just means that my idea wasn't improved. And we can talk the rest of the night. As long as 5 votes say one way or the other, that's the way it's going to go.
But Levi,
Just so there's no misunderstanding, Levi, I never said that this administration wasn't a good administration.
No, you didn't.
I don't want anyone to be left with that impression.
But the implication here is that we're overpaying our administrative staff, or that we had too many. And I've heard this year in and year out, and I totally disagree with that.
Where do the administrators teach their classes? When was the last time an administrator went in and taught our students to be paid $130,000 and $40,000?
They teach
I just don't
teachers
agree with that.
on
Levi.
PLC.
I don't agree with that. Many people will agree with it, but I don't.
If you, in comparable private industry, if you find that
Comparable
Durham...
private industry, they would be nowhere near $130,000.
Hang on a minute. If you find that in Durham, I don't care, let's go even in hard industry, Duraloy, whether administrator or the chief executive officer, and if you want to look and say that that person is not important, or in any other industry, go up along 119, and where the division heads and where that is not needed in any successful industry, that is needed, and one needs to pay for that expertise and for that service.
That's a
Thank you, Levi.
And that's different from, and that's not to say that the person who is doing whatever it is along the line is not important. That person is very important too, but you need leadership.
You can't talk about private businesses and what their administration does, because they're in there to make a profit. I don't see where your comparison is comparable to administrators here or anywhere.
Okay.
It's been really good discussion tonight.
Let me tell you something.
I think we need to make a motion to,
The minute you suggest a
motion to
cut,
close.
the minute you
I have a
suggest a
motion
cut,
for
you're
adjournment.
anti-something. That's the sad part. Yes, it is, Levi.
Motion
They'll walk
by
out of here,
Mrs.
fights
Love. Is there a
anti-athletics.
second?
You know, that's
Mrs.
what's
Love,
going to
thank
do.
you.
know.
Call adjourned.
Oh, I'm anti-everything. Don't dare make a suggestion, you're automatically anti.